Hey everybody, Austin back again, continuing this Castlevania Let's Play Marathon. And not really just continuing it, but this is sort of the grand finale, guys, as we have here my favorite Castlevania game, pretty much of all time. And actually one of my favorite video games of all time, period. It's one of those classic games I come back to very frequently, and it is Super Castlevania 4, as you can see here. Now, as sort of a finale, I've actually got a special guest here with me. It's been a long time, but, you know, say hello to my brother, Brandon. So welcome aboard, Brandon. It's been a long time, even though you pretty much live in the same apartment as me. So, yeah, Super Castlevania 4, guys. Such an awesome Castlevania game. And Brandon, I'm pretty sure I know that you really enjoy this game as well. You do play it every now and then. And sometimes this guy will feed me liquor and then talk me into playing this game. And we'll just beat it in one sitting together. So, good times with that. But yeah, here's the intro of the game. Sort of the obligatory intro after Castlevania 3, since that game had an intro. So this game definitely had to follow suit. Man, this game is just... I'm actually really excited to play this game, Brandon, because, yeah, I've been doing Castlevania Let's Plays for pretty much all of October. I think this is my 11th or 12th Castlevania Let's Play in a 4-week time span. And as you guys know, I like to do my Let's Plays in one fell swoop. I like to do the entire video in one sitting. I don't like to chop them up into 5 or 10 minute increments like you usually see with Let's Plays. So I've done a lot of Let's Playing for this last month, and you know we're pretty much wrapping it up here. Do you remember when this game came out, Brayden? Like you were actually pretty young when this game came out. You're probably only like 5 years old or something like that. Mm-hmm. Do you even remember anything like when the game was new, or was that kind of like too long ago for you?
Well, all I remember is that one year for Christmas, you got it. And you beat it like 6 hours later. We were upstairs in the game room, and at the time it was Mom's bedroom.
Yeah, that was where the Super Nintendo was. Yeah. It was in Mom's bedroom.
Yeah, 'cause I remember when Mega Man X first came out, we would always play the game up there in her bedroom.
Yeah.
Next morning, I'd wake up early and knock on the door just to go in to play freaking Mega Man X, and it was like, you know, same deal with Castlevania and Super Mario All-Stars. And
yeah, well, when we got the Super Nintendo, I think it was actually the same year Mario All-Stars came out, which would have been 1993. And Dad bought the system off someone at his job, apparently, and it came with Mario All-Stars, obviously, but it also came with Mario World and Super Castlevania 4, which is the part I cared about. I mean, I loved Mario All-Stars and Mario World as well, but Super Castlevania 4 was, you know, one of my favorite games at that time. And lo and behold, pretty much 20 years later, it still is one of my favorite games. I can't say that for a whole lot of games, but Super Castlevania 4 is definitely up there as one of the best, in my opinion.
I think it is too. Also, I also... We do remember a lot back then. We did like a cheap, like MacGyver homebrew movie thing. I think we actually.
Oh, we tried making it like a home movie. It was so awful, and yet I recorded Super Castlevania 4 footage just for that. And I remember recording the intro for that stupid ass movie and showing it to Dad as part of the movie, and it's just this really slow intro we just watched, and he was like, "What the hell am I watching?"
Yeah.
I was I must have been like between 10 and 12 years old when that happened. Yeah, I was a little bit older, but you were still really young because you're 4 years younger than me, so you weren't even 10 years old yet. So, and I think in that movie we recorded like part of it was like scaring you. I remember putting like a fake rubber snake in the toilet and telling you to go in, and like you freaked out about it, and that was on the video. You probably don't remember that. Sorry. But the part that sticks I remember one part that stuck out. You were supposed to play this game, and like you were supposed to fail miserably, and I'm supposed to make fun of you or something like that. I remember putting you on the clock tower stage, which is towards the end of the game, and you're just like falling down holes left and right. And I don't even remember if that was scripted or not, but you don't even remember.
All I remember is that we had this.
You remember the basic event, and I remember the details, and with our memories combined, we've got the ultimate story.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and hit start and just get into this.
Alright.
Let's go to the options menu, see what we got here. We got stereo and monaural sound. One great thing about this game is you do have a sound test mode. You know, music and sound effects, which, you know, I've never really used an actual sound test mode before. I've always just used the music jukeboxes. So this game does have that, which is great. So, but yeah, let's go ahead and get out of here.
Well, also the effects start out automatically
On 2.
2. Not 0, not 1, but 2.
Great. I'm like not even a quarter of the way through the video yet, and I'm already sniffling. It's a tear-jerking moment. So let's enter our name, you know, just as I've been doing these last few Castlevania games where, let's see if there's enough room.
Oh, there's enough room.
Oh,
for...
dude, it's like in every Castlevania game, they give you 8 characters specifically, and that's it. Like in Castlevania Chronicles on PlayStation, they did that. In, what was the last one I played? Dracula X on the Turbo Duo. It does that, and on this, it does that. Yeah, you know, Castlevania 3 and the NES might have given you the same amount of space, because I remember using the Help Me code, which is HELP, which is 4 characters, space, ME, space. So that's 8 characters. So even since Castlevania 3, you've only had 8 characters. That's funny.
Well, it's also enough where you could spell out ass clown if you wanted to.
I could spell out ass clown. It's a good way to end the series. Oh man. Good call, Brandon. Good call. Alright guys, so we are in the game. And, you know, this is actually the first Castlevania Let's Play I've done where I haven't practiced the game. I'm actually going into this game completely cold. I have not played this game in a few months. And, but again, this is my favorite Castlevania game in the entire series, and thus it's the one I have actually played the most, pretty much out of all of them. So, you know, when I play this game, it just feels like second nature, to be honest with you. And moonwalk up the stairs, yeah. The game just feels so second nature to me. I never have any problems like adapting to it, which is awesome. Silence. You can say something, Brandon.
You know, this is the part in the song where Dracula like busts out a keyboard. He's like dancing along and rocking the keyboards, right?
That actually makes me think of like Monster Bash, the pinball machine, where it's a take on the Universal Monsters, and if you've ever seen that, you can go to like Universal Studios and see it. It's like a live musical basically, and it's like the Frankenstein, the Mummy, and the Bride of Frankenstein, and Dracula, and the Werewolf Man, the Wolf Man. They all get out and they're singing and dancing around stage, but what actually reminds me of that is the Monster Bash pinball machine, because they licensed the same characters for that, and they have some great animations in that pinball machine, and you actually see like Dracula with a guitar. He's like blah, he like does a big strum in his guitar, like the speakers like blow out the system. It's awesome. Totally unrelated to Castlevania, but it's kind of a similar theme in terms of like, you know, the monsters. Castlevania has always used the classic monsters, although Castlevania has always been, to a degree, a little more serious in that regard. You know, especially towards the beginning. Yeah, man, I feel like I have never stopped playing this game. I'm just... Yeah. God, this game is so great, man.
Well, I remember that we were at MagFest last year. There was probably sometime afterward. It was snowing outside or whatever. You came home, you're like, hey, it's snowing outside. It's like, I don't know, like 1 o'clock in the morning or whatever. And I made a mixed drink or whatever, and I was like, hey man, let's play some Castlevania, and you beat the game in like one sitting. I don't think you'd ever died.
I think we were drinking Yamazaki as well. Which Yamazaki is a Japanese whiskey. We actually were drinking some of that earlier tonight, and it's kind of harsh when you drink it straight up. It's not as sweet as I remember it being, but it is. It's still very tasty when you mix it with something. Now, guys, this is actually one of the couple of Castlevania games I've actually done a previous Let's Play on before. Not Let's Play, but a long play. Because before I ever started doing Let's Plays, I would do long plays where I, again, would just record the entire game, then place a commentary on top. And I did this game. I think this was actually my very first long play video I ever did. However, I actually did the Japanese version of this game, and what's actually kind of cool about that is, for one, you can actually go back and check that out if you want. But the Japanese version has a bunch of differences, and one of the differences is some of like the religious symbology they took out. And in this scene in particular, if you look in the back, you see the horses in the background, right? In between them in the Japanese version is actually, there was like these large crosses stuck in the ground as like grave markers, basically. And in some cases in the game, they basically took the crosses out. And there's some other more significant differences down the road, such as when you're in like the music hall level, there are these statues in the background, like these female statues. And in the Japanese version, they're topless, so you can see their breasts. I mean, granted, they're just statues, so it's like, well, it's not anything different than when I see in going to like one of the Washington monuments or something. I don't know. But, no, not quite, but like Greece or something like that, or going to an art museum. But, they basically cover them up in the American version, and I'll point that out once I get to it. And the biggest difference is probably on the dungeon level. In this version, the acid, well, let me just say the quote-unquote water in that level was actually like green acid, or like a green slime, swampy sort of looking thing. In the Japanese version, it's red. It's totally like a bloodbath down there, and it's so cool looking. And so they changed it to green for the American release.
We'll point that out later on in the game.
Yeah,
too.
Absolutely. Once we get to that stage, I'll point the difference out. And if you want to, just go back, check out that long play of Akumajo Dracula for the Super Famicom. Now, when this game came out, I'm totally sniffling right now. When this game came out in Japan, it was sort of like, to me, I get the idea it was like a reboot to the series. But when they brought it out to America, they labeled it as Super Castlevania 4. Now, of course, every Super Nintendo game back then just about had Super in the front of it. But it was also given a number at the very end. And so to me, having played Castlevania 1, 2, and 3 a lot, I was like, oh, cool, part 4. And, but in Japan, it was just Akumajo Dracula, which basically just stood for Demon Castle Dracula, which was the exact same name that the very first one had on the Famicom. But, I found that they've done that repeatedly over the years for this series. For instance, they did it for Castlevania X68000. It was just called Akumajo Dracula on the X68000 computer. And thus, because it was on the X68000, people like you and I just began calling it Castlevania X68000 or Akumajo Dracula X68000. It's kind of funny. That one made a little more sense though, because it was an actual remake of the first Castlevania, or Akumajo Dracula. It's a mouthful sometimes. But this was, they sort of did the same thing, and you know what's kind of funny? Which is actually, this is a really good time to touch up on this, because I just recently did the X68000 version just a week or so ago. This game was often billed as like a remake of the first game in the series, and after playing like the actual remake in the series, Akumajo Dracula for the X68000 or Castlevania Chronicles in America, I'm not really seeing it that much. This game is actually pretty different from the first Castlevania. Yeah, you have some similar areas in the game, you fight some similar bosses and whatnot, but it's a pretty different game in terms of like level structure, and the places you go to versus Akuma Joe Dracula for the X68000. So when you hear people billing this game as like, oh, it wasn't different enough from the first one, either they haven't played this game like at all, or they haven't played Castlevania Chronicles, which literally there's certain parts just completely taken from the very first Castlevania game. And this game doesn't really have that. I mean, not nearly as much anyway. It has some hints here and there, but for the most part, it is a very original game that just happened to have the name Akuma Joe Dracula in Japan. I mean, yeah. And maybe from a story perspective, it's like retelling the story, but from a gameplay perspective, this sucker is totally different from a lot of the other ones in the series, especially the first one. And man, this game is awesome. I had to just throw that out there.
This game is very awesome.
It is. Yeah, like, this game was very detailistic. I mean, for one, when the Super Nintendo came out, I remember Nintendo Power... Oh, look, enemies respawn. Huh. I remember Nintendo Power really billing, like, the capabilities of the system, and one of them was the multiple layers of background scrolling. And if you look in this game, you can actually see 4 layers of clouds just scrolling back and forth. And, you know, this game has a lot of those details like that, which was actually pretty common for 16-bit games. But some of the other details is, like, you walk on this bridge, and it lowers a little bit when you walk on it. And when you jump, the ropes kind of, like, jump up with you. They, like, bounce a little bit. This game was very detailistic in that regard, and it was actually one of the most detailistic Castlevania games pretty much ever up until Symphony of the Night. I mean... Dracula X and the Turbo Duo was also very detailistic in certain regards, but I think this was actually even more detailed than even that game was, and that game came out a couple years after this one. I mean, they really went all out when making this game. It is a super nice looking game. Like, look at the water. Whenever you jump on the water, like, little bubbles go by, things like that. And the water's transparent, of course, which is nice. The Super Nintendo, I believe, could actually do transparencies, whereas the Sega Genesis, unfortunately, can only do fake transparencies, or do kind of fake shadow effects, like you saw in the end of Castlevania Bloodlines.
Especially the details right here going in the water.
Yeah, you look on those little hills down there with water at the top, and the water's just dripping out from underneath them. And if I just sit here, you see how hard the bubbles are going back? It's because the water's flowing in the opposite direction. I mean, oh look, it just switched directions. It's so cool, man. I mean, when you destroy the skeletons, their bones go everywhere. This game is just, awesome for me. And what's actually been really funny about doing, or interesting about doing this Let's Play series is that I found over the course of this last month that there's actually people out there that really don't care for this game that much. And personally, I don't know how you guys do it, because I just, this game is something about it for me. Maybe a lot of it's nostalgia talking. But no, see, I don't think it is nostalgia talking. I've had games where I'm like, oh, that game was so great. And then I go back to it and I'm like, ooh, this game kind of sucks, actually. Because, you know, when you're a kid, you play anything that comes across your plate. Because you don't have the funds to go out and buy any game you want. Even if you're working, you've got to work for a month to buy a full-price game, right? Now I can work for a week and buy 50 full-price games. Maybe it's a slight exaggeration, but you get what I'm saying, I'm sure. So there are some games I go back to and I'm very nostalgic about, and then I start playing them and I'm like, ooh, yeah. Oh man, this is one of those games I was just playing as a kid because I didn't really have much of a choice, you know. It was either play Super Mario World for the 1000th time or try something new. And so you would play that something new even if it kind of sucked. But you didn't realize it sucked back then, you know. You're a little more imaginative when you're a kid. You're a little more tolerable, assuming you don't absolutely suck at every game in existence. Which fortunately wasn't me, not to brag or anything, but I did know several people back in the day that were just completely awful at games, and they couldn't even get past the first level in Super Mario Brothers. How that's even possible is beyond me. But yeah, but when I go back to this game, the whole point of that spiel is I go back to this game and I'm not like, ooh, this element just stinks, you know. The game is really unpolished here and there, and I just don't get that feeling pretty much at all. The only gripe I have with this game, and it doesn't even bother me that much because it's never really bothered me in games, is slowdown. Now, frame skipping is another story altogether. If game's frame rate gets choppy, I can't stand that, but slowdown has never bothered me. Like, you guys know, I love Super R-Type from the Super Nintendo, and that game has some notoriously bad slowdown. It's awful. And this game has a few sections where it gets slow. Like right here, it's starting to slow down. You know, as you get a lot of characters on screen and a lot of stuff is happening. Just right there, there's some slowdown right there.
It's like controlled, but it's like controlled slow down though. It's not like it's slowed down to purposely mess you up. It's like slow down where you can still maneuver and still.
No, yeah. I mean, it does. You can still maneuver around and stuff. It's just slower, you know. It's sort of just like the limitations of sort of the system, you know. Maybe if they made this game a few years after it had originally come out, they would have been able to do the exact same thing, but eliminate the slowdown. But you know, to be honest, I don't think they would have been able to, because just you look at the amount of background layers of scrolling in this game, and the amount of things going on, and the amount of things bouncing up and down, and just the detailed backgrounds. It's like, this game, even though it was one of the very earliest Super Nintendo games that have ever come out, it's still one of the most detailed, which is really saying something, I think. Like I said, the developers just went all out making this game, and it really shows. It held up perfectly well through the entire lifespan of the Super Nintendo, and usually launch area games or launch window games, they do not hold up that well over the years. Usually the launch window games are those games that people just tend to avoid down the road, unless it's like Super Mario 64, which that holds up very well, you know, and did over the course of the N64. And this is very much the same way. They kind of went all out when they made this game. And yeah, what do you have to say to that, Brandon?
Yeah, this game holds up great. Yeah, it just holds up good. No, I mean, no, it's just so many early. Well, you know, it's always like that with every video game system.
Well, you know what I found, Brandon, was that it wasn't just Castlevania 4, though. It was just something about the Super Nintendo. And you didn't see this with, like, the Sega Genesis. You didn't see it with several other platforms, you know, on launch day. And I'm not trying to start, like, a SNES versus Genesis war or anything like that. It's just like an objective observation. Is that a lot of games, early games on the Super Nintendo, like the launch window games, and like a few months after, were like pretty incredible. Like, they really held their own compared to, or when sat next to like later Super Nintendo games. Another one is Super Ghouls and Ghosts. Absolutely awesome game. Great visuals in that game. Tasteful use of the Mode 7. And, you know, a good soundtrack to go along with it. Great gameplay, lots of fun, lots of variety. Very colorful, very detailed. Very much like Super Castlevania 4. Another one, Pilot Wings. You know, it's a little more simplistic, relies on the Mode 7 much more, but it's still a fantastic game. And it pretty much was like the flight game to have on the system. Pretty much like throughout the entire life of the system, there was like no better flight game to have ever on the system. And there's something that Pilot Wings has, like some kind of a level of charm to it that just no other Super Nintendo game has in that remote genre. Another, Super Mario World, obviously. That was a launch title in America and blew away like the majority of the SNES library to come afterwards. And, you know, you know, Super Castlevania 4 was a part of that as well. There's just something about those really early Super Nintendo games. It's like, when that system came out, maybe developers were just like, God, we've been developing on this Famicom thing for way too long. We need to do something different. And they were like pumped and excited about all the new features the Super Nintendo brought to the table. I mean, there were other computers like prior to the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo, like actual home computers, that were more than capable of doing, you know, the same thing visually. And in some cases, you know, some of those computers were even more superior. But, you know, I don't think home computers were actually that popular in Japan, to be honest with you. Or at least, I don't want to say not popular, but not the super advanced ones. I don't think a whole lot of Japanese developers had a whole lot of experience developing on those computers. Like the Amiga and the Atari ST, I don't even think those really penetrated that market at all. I could be wrong. I don't really know the history of those platforms when it comes to the Japanese market, but so, you know, technically with those computers out, the Super Nintendo was actually kind of behind the times in a way. Same with the Sega Genesis, but and Mega Drive. But you know, it was like when the console developers got their hands on this though in the very beginning, they were still somehow really excited, despite there having been better hardware out previously in other areas of the industry. But man, they went so all out with so many early Super Nintendo games. It's crazy. And here's your sort of obligatory like Hydra boss. Not very difficult. Another section with slowdown. I've always liked this boss. It's not hard really, and really no boss in this game is hard, to be honest with you. And you know, after playing games like Castlevania Chronicles and to an extent Dracula X, I don't mind that at all. I like a good, solid, polished, fun game that isn't mind-numbingly difficult and doesn't require like years of memorization to get through. And Super Castlevania 4 is pretty much that game. It's like just a really well-balanced game. You can just crack a beer, sit down with it, an hour later finish it, and just like when you're done, just be like, yeah, that was nice, you know? So we're making progress. I'm doing most of the talking, but still making progress. You know, here's another aspect of the detailistic nature. You look at these skulls on the walls, they like follow you. So like his head keeps turning.
And his eyes turn red.
Yeah, his eyes turn red too. Here are those platforms you can jump on, and you actually saw these on the very first level as well. If you jump on them, they rotate around. You have to jump immediately, otherwise you fall through like that. And there are a few sections in the game where you have to go over an endless pit jumping on these platforms. One part that actually used to give me a lot of trouble back in the day was like right here. You know, if you get hit by that skeleton, you land on the green platforms and you have the potential to fall to your death. So you do have to be careful with that. Something to be very careful about. And I'm just like rolling through this game with no problems at all. And I'm probably not going to have really many problems at all for the rest of the game. You know, there's the potential I will die once or twice, maybe 3 times. But for the most part, yeah, I don't even think I've taken that many hits, to be honest with you. Haven't been paying attention to it. I've actually been getting my ass kicked so much in some of the other Castlevania games recently that this actually feels kind of refreshing. I mean, seriously.
Like when you're playing Dracula's Curse on like normal, then hard, then
oh yeah,
insane or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. I actually had a really good run on that during the Let's Play for some odd reason. It's probably because I was practicing it, and yeah, I just happened to have a good run. And then I went back in the same Let's Play video, and if you guys haven't seen it yet, definitely go check it out. I go back and I try to play the game again on like the hard mode. After you beat it, it basically unlocks a harder difficulty setting, and it is a lot more difficult. This game does it, and most of the Castlevania games I played do it, except for Dracula X and the Turbo Duo. But this one, the second loop, actually isn't that much more difficult. There's more enemies, but because of the flexibility you have in this game, it's really not any more challenging, to be honest with you. And I don't mind it. I mean, I like just having tons of enemies to just mow through. Like I'm playing Doom or something like that. Doom's not really a hard game for me, but it still feels really good to just mow through all those enemies, you know? And that's what it's kind of like playing Castlevania 4 on the second loop. It's a little more difficult. Not really. There's just more to kill, which is fun. Sometimes you just want to get into a game and break shit, you know? There's going to be some Medusas here. And this is a problem I used to die at a lot. But this is a part where you could just stay still, time your attack. You do get punished pretty bad if you miss an attack and you get hit. Something to keep in mind. There's actually some pretty hefty knockback in this game. So whenever you get hit, you get knocked back pretty hardcore. Now this platform is going to disappear, so you want to hang on to this hook. And just stay here. Don't let go. Don't let go of the button. If you let go of your attack button, you will fall. And you'll either fall into the hole there, or you'll touch the spikes. And spikes in this game are bad. Just like the early Castlevania games, spikes will kill you in one hit. Fortunately, that's something they sort of fixed in Castlevania The Adventure Rebirth on the Wii, as well as, I believe, Castlevania 2 for the Game Boy. There are some spikes in that game that do not kill you in one hit. I think it was Castlevania 2 on the Game Boy. Because Castlevania 1 on the Game Boy, there was like spikes everywhere. And I don't know if you played that one too much, Brandon. Did you actually play any of the Game Boy ones that much? At all?
Castlevania Adventure.
The first one?
Yeah.
Yeah, the one that was like super slow.
Yeah, and I also played.
Did you ever play Castlevania Legends? I know I had it for a while, but I don't know if you ever actually like played it or tried it out.
That's when you play as the chick, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like
I think it was like Sonia Belmont.
Sonia, yeah. That was actually a pretty hard Castlevania. I thought.
You think so?
Yeah.
I haven't beaten that in, God, probably over 12 or 13 years. I don't remember it being that difficult. I just remember being absurdly long for what it was and getting really, really boring and being very repetitious.
Yeah, the bubbles were pretty long in that game.
I mean, you also had a short and like a long mode in the game. And what was funny is the short mode was still kind of long. And you're like, really? This is the short mode?
And the long mode wasn't that much longer.
And the long mode was way too long. Whoa, almost died there. You can jump on top of these like you could in Castlevania 3. Oh, I got crushed. Man, that was a lame way to go. I mean, for like your first death, you just happen to die because you tried something you never really tried before. That sucks. Well, I remember not to do that this time. That was actually pretty lame.
That was the first, right?
Yeah, that was my first death. I have 5 lives still. I'm probably gonna have more by the time we get towards the end. It's another example of just some really creative level design. This section will actually just keep looping up infinitely, pretty much, and you'll just keep going through the same parts over and over. And you have multiple entrances to the next section, which I always thought was kind of cool. And this part, just keep walking. Sometimes if you just stay on it, it'll just keep going up to the ceiling. What I like to do is just stay on it until I almost touch the ceiling, then walk off, and then it just stops. So, another example of, you know, some of the cool things you can do in this game. Just goof around. I love that you can just kind of like play around in this game. You don't have to take it super seriously like you do other Castlevania games. Just because it's like, you're so flexible. You can whip in any direction pretty much, just like so. And you can also just wiggle your whip around, you know, like so, and you can just let it hang down. And it's pretty much the only Castlevania game where you can do all of these motions, like all 8 directions, and then just wiggle it everywhere. You know, there's other Castlevania games where you can just hold it out and it just kind of, this is weird, kind of unnatural looking jiggle thing, but it's a lot more convincing in this one. And what I like to do sometimes is just when I'm goofing around, just be like,
yeah, be like, all of a sudden, like, you know, like all of a sudden, like a big
it's like it gets windy.
like
Yeah, I like just like
rolls by.
loving just that you could do stuff like that. I should put like a different color bandana on him in the video and just be like, zoom in, like put some like Rambo music behind it or something.
Have like a tornado fly by.
Yeah. Oh, that would be hilarious.
The boss music was always good in this game too, you know.
Yeah, it was. This game had music that was a little more quote-unquote suspenseful than what you found in other Castlevania games, and I thought that was a really cool change. I liked that a lot. And despite this not maybe being the most aggressive soundtrack in the series, it's probably one of my favorite soundtracks in the series because of that sort of ambient and like spacey, apprehensive, you know, type of music. And it really fits the horror theme, you know, like the creepy environments you go to. What are your thoughts on the music, Brandon?
I think this is one of the best Castlevania games with some of the best music. Well, then again, that kind of goes with all of them, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if there's one thing the Castlevania series is well known for, it's the soundtracks, plural, because there's very few Castlevania games with just really bad soundtracks. To be honest, I can't even really think of too many. Like even this second game on PlayStation 2 and Xbox, I didn't care for that much. Curse of Darkness, you know, despite the game to me being kind of like monotonous and repetitive and boring, like it and just not really that much fun to go through. The soundtrack was pretty good, so it's just like, you know, even like the monotonous and kind of boring, mediocre Castlevania games still have good music. It's just like, if there's one thing you got to get right in this series, it's the soundtrack. I did not want that. This is a good example. Just hold the whip out. Takes more hits, but totally worth it. So we're just about towards the halfway point in the game. This is where, you know, we just about enter the castle, and then from there on out, stages actually ramp up in difficulty a little bit. This is the last section, and we're pretty much inside the castle.
He's got a hell of a journey just to get into the castle.
Look like the vines and stuff in this part, and you're just like walking behind them. I always thought that was cool. This part up here is actually going to be yet another homage to a prior Castlevania game. And these are the Sypha statues. And this is the one that Sypha technically, I guess, breaks out of. Although where it is in this is in a completely different part than it was in Castlevania 3, which is like, to me, it's not just like a remake of the first game. It takes parts from a lot of the games in the series, or the games that came previous to this one, which at that point was only 4. You know, the first 3 in the NES, and then the first one on the Game Boy. So I think the second one on Game Boy came out after this one, or around the same time, maybe. So we're pretty much inside Drax's castle, and we got about 37 minutes so far. So we'll probably have this game beaten around the hour to hour and 10 mark. You know, it's the pacing and length is very similar to some of the other Castlevania games.
One of the differences in the Japanese version.
Yeah, this is another one of the differences. I had mentioned it previously, and I think this dog's gonna get back up. Yeah, they get back up. If you look, let me just pause it. If you look at the statue, it's just, you know, it's a female, sort of. The head is gone, I think, but the top part is covered up. In the Japanese version, the top half is uncovered, so you see the breasts. That's one of the things they changed in this game. And again, if you want to check that out, you know, the long play I originally did on this game was actually, again, the Japanese version. So you can actually go back and check out all those differences and whatnot. So, which I always thought was kind of cool that there were differences like that. You know, it kind of stinks sometimes to have differences. Like, you don't want a censored game. But on the same note, it's like when you go back to it down the road, you're like, oh, that's actually kind of cool. Like, it gives me a reason to play the Japanese version, you know, and the American one. I like how both games are, you know, so one day I'll just feel like playing the Japanese one, and then the next day I'll feel like playing the American one. I like having that further layer of flexibility, you know.
It kind of adds character too. It's like you see the statue's head gone. It's like it still adds eeriness to Dracula's castle, because, you know, because you go into Dracula's castle and, you know, it's all
wrong way.
Supposed to be all ridiculous and whatnot, you know.
Sorry, I had to. Brandon's like, dude, shut up and just keep playing. Oh, man. And you can sort of like, whoa. If you get a little too ahead of yourself, you can fall down some pits, but shh. Oh, wait, wrong way again. Your jumps are very controllable in this game, so that's something to definitely keep in mind when you're playing. You do have a lot of tight jumps, so there's going to be sections where you don't really need to control your jump at all. You just need to make a good, precise, long jump. But in cases like that, where you've got platforms that are sort of coming in and out, you know, controlling your jump is really good. Let me kill this guy first. Whoa. But this is going to be a secret right here. And there's a couple secrets in the game. Actually, only 2, I think. But this is sort of like an item room. And you've got these ghosts. You got a dude and his dog. It's actually kind of sad, because if you kill his dog, he, like, gets down and he starts crying. Oh, my dog. It's kind of like in Final Fight. Did you ever get to the part in Final Fight where you bust the guy's car, he goes, "Oh my car."
Oh yeah.
In the arcade one, he actually says, "Oh my god." But that's in that game they censored that out, and in the Super Nintendo one, he goes, "Oh my car." Oh man. You see, without that censorship back in the day, you wouldn't have us talking about "oh my car" versus "oh my god," you know, like 20 years later from Final Fight. You know, it's the same with this game. So in a way, censorship was actually kind of good in the 90s. It gives us something to talk about. Like, you don't really have that in these days. So like, what are you going to look back on some of these more modern games? It's like, you know, just reminisce over like the game being good, but there's going to be certain layers of that reminiscing that are just going to be missing, you know? So in a way, like, some of these old games are really special in that regard. Even though when they first came out, they were just like, "Oh, why is this game censored? I hate the publisher for making this game censored," you know? But, you know, it's giving us something to talk about a long time down the road.
Well, plus most games aren't like that now.
Yeah, no, pretty much not at all. I mean,
most games you kind of get, like, it is for what it is.
And when they do censor a game these days, you just kind of laugh at it. You're like, really? Have you played like some of these other games? Yet you go ahead and you censor yours? It's like, I think there's very few situations these days in comparison where games are censored, at least in the way that they were before. Like, remember back in the 90s, they would literally just like cut out all blood from games, you know? Or in the case of like SNK's games coming out, all blood would still be there, but they would turn it white, so it looked like you were sweating. Like Metal Slugs were pretty notorious for that, as well as the Last Blade series.
That's cool.
But in the case of like the Castlevania series, you know, a lot of the symbology, religious symbology, was taken out as well. You know, the crosses were covered up or erased or modified or and I mentioned this earlier on in my Let's Play series, Brandon, but did you know that the boomerang in the Castlevania series was actually originally called the cross? It was actually like a holy symbol, and you know, one of the ends was longer than the other three, but when they brought it over to America, they just called it the boomerang, and shaped it to be like the same sides, you know, same length size. And it wasn't until later Castlevania games, like
they made it like a cross, you know?
They actually made it like a holy cross, you know.
Like in Symphony of the Night.
Yeah, like Symphony of the Night, exactly. You got the right idea. So, I always thought that was kind of interesting as well. Things, little, you know, changes like that. I love being able to moonwalk in this game, because you can walk one way and then attack the other way. And you pretty much do that by holding it up in the opposite direction. You start going, and then you flip your direction over. Like so. But you have to hold upwards and diagonally in the opposite direction to do that. So we're actually pretty much getting close to finishing this stage, where we've actually gone through quite a bit on this level. And these like specters right here, you can't really do anything with them until you get grabbed by the big red hands on the wall. Uh-oh. Oh, I got hit by it. That's a bad hit detection. Shame on you, Castlevania 4. You're supposed to be perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Well, you know what I like about the Castlevania games is that in the later Castlevania games, they bring a lot of the same enemies. Like in Symphony of the Night.
Oh yeah.
You know, there's a lot like, you know, the coffins and the little evil spirit with all the multi-weapons.
Yeah. Well, in the modern ones, they've got the problem of, at least the modern 2D ones, like the Metroidvania ones, is they have the problem of regurgitating the exact same enemies from Symphony of the Night. And what I liked about the older Castlevania games is that they would regurgitate the enemies, but they would change the art style in the enemies. Like, you would know that's still a skeleton, or that's still like a specter, or you know, something like that. But the art style in the enemies would change a little bit. So in some of those newer ones, like Order of Ecclesia, which is the third Nintendo DS Castlevania game, they're still using a lot of the same enemy designs from Symphony of the Night. You know, same with Dawn of Sorrow and Portrait of Ruin. So it's just like they're literally just rehashing it. But and what I liked about these earlier Castlevania games is that you saw those enemies, but they were different. You know, at the same time, it was really cool. It was great seeing those enemies just brought back, or like kind of like. I don't know how to explain it. Just like redrawn to fit like the modern graphical style, you know. Super Castlevania 4, like this game was a huge step up from the previous ones from a graphical perspective. Like everything was bigger and more detailed, and they went for a more realistic vibe. Whereas they could have gone the Dracula X route, where they used anime for the most part as inspiration for the character designs, and made a more cartoonish looking game. But this one, they went the more realistic route, and everything was bigger as a result. And you know, it was man, it was great seeing those classic enemies I was familiar with through the last 3 games, just in these like really bigger designs and bigger designs that looked more realistic. You know, it's really cool. So
yeah, the little Sphinx guy on top. He's got his eyes above.
Oh yeah, you can see it right here too. Got my whip on top of him. His eyes glow. It's really cool. If you look up top, the books, they kind of jiggle back and forth, like they're like possessed books or poltergeist sort of. I always thought that was really cool. And they keep bouncing like back and forth as you play the game. And there's actually parts in the music where you hear like sort of like rumbling in the background, and I think it's sort of to simulate like the books bouncing back and forth, jiggling back and forth. Just gave it a very like ambient vibe, you know, which is really cool. When this game came out, the audio was phenomenal. I totally pushed that guy off the screen by accident. He just disappeared. That was like Ninja Gaiden style. You can do that in the first Ninja Gaiden.
Dracula must have went through a lot of work to build his castle the way he wanted it to
Dude, he's like mystical Dracula. He just probably like snapped his fingers and was just like, yeah, this looks good enough. Damn books. Those guys used to always give me trouble back in the day. But what I figured out as I got older is you can pretty much just skip the entire section by just jumping down like I just did. Which is cool. You do the same thing in one of the sections in Castlevania Chronicles on the PlayStation, or Dracula X 68000. So, did you ever play that one, Brandon? Castlevania Chronicles?
Yeah, I have.
Did you get very far in it? that's a hard one, man. That's a tough one. When I did that video, a lot of people were like, "Yeah, this game is too hard for me," and I don't blame them. It's a tough game. I was getting frustrated doing that Let's Play, to be honest, practicing for it. Do you remember how far you got in that game?
I haven't played much.
This isn't to make you feel bad or anything like that, because trust me, you don't have to feel bad with that game. It's
I didn't play much of it.
You didn't play much of it? Yeah. Okay. Did you play it back in the day when I bought it, like in 2001 or so?
No, because at that time I was too busy playing like Final Fantasy X or something.
10? What year did 10 come out? Wasn't that like 2002 or something like that?
2000, probably was early 2001.
Well, see, no, not early 2001, because
I remember being a freshman in high school.
It wasn't early 2001 though, because I was still in high school, and the PS2 was still kind of hard to get on the early parts of 2001.
Oh no, it's like late 2001.
Okay.
It was like probably in September, October-ish when it came out.
Yeah. See, I think you might be thinking October 2002, because I remember I was working at Funkoland when that game came out. And I remember a couple of my coworkers buying it and going over to like their dorm rooms and seeing them playing it, and they were like ranting and raving about it. And I didn't start that job till 2002.
Wait, for Final Fantasy X?
Yeah, part 10.
Wow.
Yeah. Not part 7 or 8 or 9, but part 10, yeah, for the PS2. Remember, the PS2 came out in 2000. And it wasn't until about October 2000 that it came out in America. And then it actually had kind of a software drought for a while. You know, and the system was kind of hard to get for a while as well. You know, it was, God, the hype around that system was just absurd. It was really pathetic almost. I mean, it was great to see like a video game system being that, you know, desirable to a lot of people, but at the same time, it's just like, it wasn't really, at the time, it wasn't like really any different than like the Dreamcast, you know? From like, you know, the visuals that you saw to like the load times and just the general quality of the games you got, it really wasn't anything special, which was, but, you know, people were just killing each other over that system, literally, in some cases. It was crazy.
Well, people were really hardcore about it.
It was so hard to get for like the first 6 months. You know, it was almost kind of like the Nintendo Wii when that came out, except that it was not as nice, I guess, in terms of, or at least how nice the people were about it. Like the Wii, it was really hard to get a Wii for a long time, just because it was, you know, it was really popular. But the PS2 was just, I don't think anything has really happened to that degree, like, before or since. I mean, in terms of like a system launching and there being a drought, but people just kind of like beating each other up over it, you know. And kind of going back with that, the thing about it is just like, it wasn't really, like, we already had a Dreamcast, and a lot of my friends had a Dreamcast, and we were all just like, really? People are fighting over this? And obviously, you know, it just had a poor launch in terms of like a library, you know. But if obviously you would see a year or two down the road that the PS2 was a pretty awesome system, you know, pretty powerful compared to the Dreamcast, you know, definitely had more there in certain cases than what the Dreamcast probably could have handled. But yeah, that was probably around the time like Grand Theft Auto 3 hit, Devil May Cry. That's when things started picking up. And I think that was actually late 2001, late 2001, maybe early 2002. And then shortly after, you had stuff like Final Fantasy X. That was like the next wave. And yeah. So this is the dungeon I was talking about earlier on in the game, where you can see the water in this is actually green. It's like acid. And on certain parts, you can actually jump on it, but as you can see, it hurts you. So you obviously don't want to do that. But again, in the Japanese version, it's all red. It's all completely bloody. And you know what's kind of interesting about that? I don't know about you, Brandon, but I like the green. It actually kind of fits the ground. And actually, I think in the Japanese version, even the ground is all red. I think that's how it is. Maybe I'm wrong. It's been a while since I played the Japanese one.
Well, the red definitely brightened up the level.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It definitely made it a brighter day.
A brighter day.
The like green acid almost kind of
makes it more like dreary, kind of like.
Yeah, well, it makes it look like they're more like
you were actually in a dungeon.
Yeah, with like really shitty sewage water that hasn't been.
Yeah.
Sewage hadn't been cleaned in.
My thoughts exactly.
Dracula taking crazy Dracula poop.
Dracula's been taking crazy Dracula dumps. And it shows in level 8-1 of Super Castlevania 4. This is going to be a dagger, yep. So I still know where most of the items are in this game. Whereas when I was playing like Castlevania 3, I was like, what does this do? Oh no, it's the holy water, I don't want the holy water. And it's too late, I grabbed it. You can attack really fast in this game if you are, you know, good with it. You just tap the whip, tap, 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 tap. You can actually probably attack the fastest you can in pretty much any Castlevania game, now that I think about it. You can attack really quick in this game. So, hey Brandon, did you ever beat this game on your own?
Yeah.
You have beat this game, okay. But I know you haven't beaten a lot of Castlevania games.
Yeah, I've beaten Castlevania 1, 2, 4, beaten Dracula X. And I've beaten,
oh, you beat Dracula X on the Turbo Duo?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And because we had like a save function, so you could always go back and die over and over and over and just restart your file. Then I beat Symphony of the Night. And then I beat the...
Of course you beat Symphony of the Night. I used to play the hell out of that game.
Yeah, beat the hell out of that game. Beat the hell out of that game many times. And then I played the hell out of the N64 versions, both.
Oh, yeah.
Like Legacy of Darkness.
What did you think of those games? Because they aren't usually liked very much amongst the, the Castlevania purists.
Oh, I loved them.
Yeah, me too.
I like, Cordell. Was it Cordell?
Cornell, yeah.
Cornell. Cordell. Yeah, what's really cool about Castlevania for the N64 was that the time spacings for, like, the story lapse between the first and second one kind of intertwined. Also from the fact how Legacy of Darkness, right? That's the second one, right?
Yeah.
How that was supposed to be like more of like the finished actual product, but I guess since Konami had like a certain due time, they only had...
Yeah, I think the story goes for Legacy of Darkness is that it was basically what the first Castlevania on the 64 was supposed to have been. But you know what's kind of funny about that is I actually like the finished original product. I actually like it a lot. I thought it was a great game. Very difficult too, which a lot of the original Castlevania series was difficult. So, it was nice to see a difficult Castlevania game again, Oh, that was bad.
Oh, man.
That was really bad. But, what was funny is Legacy of Darkness was definitely an easier game. And really on certain stages that was probably for the better. But I actually liked the level design in certain parts more in the first one, despite it being kind of the one that, they just kind of pushed out the door. I actually think the level design feels more natural in it to me. Mm-hmm. Especially that first level. I feel the first level is a little more straightforward in the first one and not as like just, I don't know, it doesn't make you wander around as much as it does in Legacy of Darkness. So in a way I actually think that's better, There's a couple other stages like the dual tower, which is extremely difficult in the first one. It was made almost way too easy in the second one. And I liked that it was extremely difficult in the first one, because when you beat it, like, you had a real sense of accomplishment, whereas in the second one it's just kind of like, oh, it's just another stage, yeah, did you beat those though?
Yeah, I have.
You did, okay.
Yeah, because actually I beat the hell out of both of them. What was really cool about Legacy of Darkness was with Cornell, you beat it once. You go back and play the game with Henry and save the children, and then that's how you unlock Reinhardt and Carrie.
Yeah, and saving the children with Henry was actually pretty cool. It was like a mini little quest mode. It took you maybe like an hour to beat it or something like that. Mm-hmm. It was pretty short, but you had a gun, and so you were just like shooting zombies with your pistol. It was really cool, and like the level designs were like remixed a little bit, You had to like bust through walls to find like the kids and whatever, and it was really cool. And then you can unlock Reinhardt and Carrie and go back through the Legacy of Darkness remix stages with Reinhardt and Carrie.
Well, in the first Castlevania for N64, the little boy that's in the villa, that's Henry. Now the boy that's in Legacy of Darkness in the villa, that's like someone else. That's not Henry that you saved.
I'm confused.
Because there's like little evil Dracula looking.
Well, yeah, the kid in the purple, that's not Henry. That's someone else. And that's actually turns out to be Dracula later on if you play it the right way. Mm-hmm. But you do also find Henry as well. I thought separate. I don't remember. Oh, I totally screwed that up.
Or that was like a different story. But see, what's kind of crazy though is because when you're playing the game with Henry, the game's actually taking place like 20 years later when you're going back and rescuing the children.
Yeah.
Before you play as Reinhardt, which I think is kind of
pretty cool.
Pretty neat,
Yeah.
And unless they purposely made those two games like that with the story then it's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So one little Easter egg here is on this level, if you hop on these treasure chests something like 100 times, a meat will fall from the sky. Problem is, if you do it right here, you can't really get to the meat, especially since when you walk on those like sort of piles of money in the air that are just hung up on hooks, they deteriorate and they fall apart right away. So you only have one chance to hop on them and get off and get up to where you need to go. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get this meat, although I think it disappears very quickly anyway. But I'm going to go ahead and just do it and make it appear so you guys can see that. I have like 544 seconds on the clock, so it's not like we're really, you know, in a rush. So always like the ghosts kind of flying up as well. Ooh.
Spooky.
You know, you never really saw that on the NES, so when you got to this level and everything was like blinking and, you know, flashing and you had the ghosts going up, it was, every time you jumped on the treasure chest, like money pieces would fly out. It was so detailed. You know I've gloated about this a lot and how detailed it is. It's such a detailed game. So, for the time, and this was 1991, mind you. So, you know, you look at Super Nintendo games that came later, and some of them couldn't even match this in terms of like the levels of detail.
Yeah, same with Final Fantasy 2 came out in 91.
Yep.
And that game was a big step
This might have
up.
even been 1990 in Japan. You know, because the Super Nintendo came out a year earlier in Japan. This might have even been 90 in Japan, which is crazy. I mean, that's super early. I think when like this came out in Japan, we were still playing it like Ninja Gaiden and Mega Man. There's the meat. Of course, I can't get to it. It's only there for like 4 seconds.
So like by the time you get up there, you can't even get it.
Yeah, exactly. Even if the platform was there, I don't think you can get it. But I'm pretty sure you can do that on any part with treasure chest that you can jump on. So ideally you want to do it on a part where, you know, there's no platform above you or something like that, you know.
That's a lot of money wasted, man.
But Drac can just like flick his finger and make money appear, remember? It's Drac, dude. So like you could probably do it right here and money and the meat would fall down to the right. But I'm not going to do it again because not 100% sure if it's going to reappear.
That's also really cool about
what?
this one.
Damn, man.
That's how you could swing.
I totally hit it and it just... The whip bypass. I think there's going to be some meat up there. Yeah, see, I wanted that tiny meat. There's also going to be a stopwatch, but I don't really use the stopwatch in this game. I probably should, especially for like parts like this, where things start to get a little bit trickier. Probably would just want to use your boomerangs on this part, though. There's going to be some skeletons that appear, like right there. I used to die at this part all the time. The skeleton would knock me off. Same here. See, there's another one. You have to be careful at this part, otherwise you get knocked off really easily. But I've got 67 hearts. What I can do is just sit here and just use them on this bone dragon. Just like so. Oh, there was a hook. I kind of wanted to hook onto it. Oh, shit, run! Yeah, there's another stopwatch.
Even bats have really good detail.
Ow. Took one for the team.
Yeah, like little
Team Belmont.
down there.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like you see, like the necklaces hanging from the ceiling. It's really cool. Everything just like shimmers and shines in this stage. Like you can just jump on the. You sink here, and if you go too far, you die.
You die in money.
Yeah.
Sad. That's a sad way to die.
You die a rich death.
You're rich when you're dead.
That is such a bad joke. And this is reminiscent of Castlevania 3, where you have the falling blocks. And I think you can actually, yeah, destroy them, like so.
Why don't you destroy them all?
The hell? Let's try this again.
Wait, I don't think you're supposed to destroy them, right?
No, probably not. But I did anyway.
No,
Like
there
that.
you
There's gonna be another secret up here, and it's not really so much a secret. You're probably gonna get to it anyway. But I want to say it is this one up here. Yeah.
go. Nice.
Another free power-up area.
And you actually got your meat too.
Meat. I like me some meat. Especially in Castlevania games. I mean, chicken. Oh, I was gonna say chicken's good. Like, you know, burgers are good. There's nothing like meat in Castlevania games because it apparently tastes good to the character and you get a shit ton of life back. Which you typically need because Castlevania games are usually hard.
And out of nowhere, he'll find like a big cooked pot roast, you know.
It's funny if you play Dracula X on the Turbo Duo. There's a section in the game where you get like this huge slab of meat. I think it's like the size of an entire like 4-piece block.
He's eating on the go, man. How many knives does it take to kill a?
Well, the knife is relatively weak, so this is the part in the level where it's mostly just money. So you get lots of money in this part. If you're a whore for points, then this is the section of the game for you. There's just money bags everywhere. Which is cool. It fits the level, you know? It's, I mean, you see money everywhere in the whole stage, so it's like, you know, it's cool that they did that. Whoa. Did not want to attach to that. Got an extra life. We're up to 8 lives, Brandon. Look at that.
Yeah.
Getting close to the boss, too. God, whipping in all directions almost makes this game too easy, but I love it at the same time. It's just like, yeah, take that skeleton 2 floors above me. Bam! Straight up. You know, look at that. You pretty much cover a huge portion of the screen, and that is awesome. You have to be careful not to touch this guy's money as it flies off of him. It's okay, the stuff just falling right above you. You don't want to touch the stuff that comes off him when you hit him, though. That will actually hurt you. Oh, come on. Don't be like that. Oh, they drop money now, and that hurts you.
I remember, you know, being a kid a lot and going to the sound test menu and always playing this level's music.
Yeah?
I would have it like on, probably on, I'd probably play it for like, I don't know, half an hour maybe.
Whoa, what the hell is wrong with me? I've normally... I almost died at that boss. That'll be like the first time I died at that boss in a long time. Just like running around trying to dodge them. I never do that. Alright, so we pretty much have 3 levels and then we've beaten the game. Clock Tower, which we're going to now, and then another tower in the obligatory bridge section. And, yeah.
I'm gonna get another shot.
Go for it, man.
Do you want one?
Oh, that's right. We only have the,
Honey Tennessee.
Honey Tennessee. Yeah, go ahead and pour me some Honey Tennessee whiskey or whatever it is. It's not actually that alcoholic. I think it's only like 15-20% alcohol. Some like fruity stuff. Not fruity stuff, but less alcoholic liquor. Liquor, actually, I think is what it is. So I guess we'll be taking a shot of that while I do this video. In celebration to this month-long Castlevania Let's Play Marathon. Again, guys, it's been a lot of fun doing this. It's been a lot of work, too, though. I put a lot of time into doing these Let's Plays this month. I really upped the amount of Let's Plays I typically do in a month. Usually I would do 3, maybe 4 Let's Plays in a month. This whole month I've pretty much done like 11 or 12, which is way more than I normally do. So yeah, it's been a lot of work, guys. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this month-long Castlevania marathon. We're not done yet, though. We are still not done with Castlevania 4. So you want to do this, Brandon? I'll pause it. All right. You guys can't see this, but we're gonna go ahead and cheers. Cheers lightly in front of the mic. That was like a pathetic. We'll cheers afterwards. All right, let's do this. There you go. Woo!
Tastes like cough medicine.
It does. Thought this stuff was supposed to taste good.
Man, it tastes like Robitussin, man. And I hated that shit.
You hated that shit.
Yeah, I remember like being a kid or whatever, and Robitussin, it was like you get like a sore throat. I'm like, ugh. Actually, you know what? If you ever got sick, I'm sure like one shot of this will probably make you feel better.
So that guy's right there was actually another little bit of attention to detail and flexibility that you just did not have in other Castlevania games. Is when you whip on a hook, you can actually still use your secondary items.
Oh, the gears.
The gear just totally fell off. I actually wish that's how the gears fell off in Castlevania Chronicles, but they don't. They're actually much more of a pain in that game. But as I was saying, you can still use your items while you're swinging, which is really cool. You actually kind of need to be able to do that on that last part I was at, because there's a skeleton waiting for you at the end of your hook. And what happens a lot is you land and then he hits you with his sword, and then you die. So this part I like to take my time, kill these guys first before I go up.
Yeah,
this game is so good.
Very creative level design.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love the level design in this game.
Also, what's really nice about how detailed the background is, it gives a really good perception on like how big you can imagine.
Like depth.
Yeah.
That's those extra layers of scrolling, being put to good use in this game. And not just the layers of scrolling, but you see like all the background animation, like you see like the chains going up the wall and things like that. That was really good. I mean, it still is. It livens up backgrounds. Something Castlevania Legends on the Game Boy could have used. Livening up the backgrounds. I think most of the backgrounds in that game were just like plain white. Kind of like the first Castlevania Adventure, but the first Castlevania Adventure just kind of gets a pass because it was one of the earliest Game Boy games to come out, right? The Castlevania Legends was like the mid-1990s, and you were just like, really? They were really on a crunch to get this one out. Okay, definitely don't want to sit too far out because you'll get knocked back completely. What I like to do is actually just sit down here. Yeah. Actually, I can come back up since he's up here. Look how fast you can just like mow these guys down.
We got those power-ups up there, right? Like those little bronze and silver.
Yeah,
like
next to my lives, it's the weapon increase items that you get, just like in the first and third Castlevania games. I have the 2 right now, so it allows me to throw out 2 boomerangs at one time.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And you can get it up to 3 times, so you can throw out 3 boomerangs at one time.
So it's like a 3 for like 1 heart or something, or 2 hearts is 3?
No. You still only use 1 heart per attack, but you can do it 3 times in a row. Nice. Normally, you can only throw out 1, wait for it to come back before you can throw out another, right? But now I can throw out 2 at the same time. If I keep mashing the button like this, I'm only throwing out 2. It's the max I can do.
Oh, nice.
But in the beginning, look at that. In the beginning, you can only throw out 1 at a time by default, just like in the very first Castlevania game. And I'm out of hearts. So this track is actually, you know, Super Castlevania 4, they remixed a lot of the tunes for it, which was great. You know, the last level we were at, they had remixed Bloody Tears from Castlevania 2. And then in this one, they remixed Vampire Killer from the very first Castlevania. And then in the next section, they remixed The Beginning, which is the very first level theme from Castlevania 3. So, lots of great remixes in this game. You know, and they're remade with that sort of like symphonic, you know, eerie kind of style. That goes really well with like all the backdrops of this game. So really good renditions of the tunes. The game's not really rocking like some of the other Castlevanias are. It's a little more suspenseful, but I like it how it is. I think it's really great. So one of the things you can do in this game is jump on top of the stairs, and you have to be able to do that in this game. If you're not good with that, this level is going to give you a hell of a time. This level gave me a hell of a time back in the day. To latch onto the stairs, basically all you want to do is just jump and just hold up. Don't hold up in diagonal, just hold up. If you hold up in diagonal, it might not register it right, and you might not lock onto them. So to make it less of a gamble, just hold up straight. So as long as you're above the staircase, it won't matter. When you hold up on the staircase, it takes you up the staircase anyway, just like in the classic Castlevania games. You don't have to hold diagonally to go up the staircase, just hold up, and you'll keep walking up that staircase. This is another tricky part. There's going to be some, like, basically spikes in the walls. But what I like to do, well, the hard part's coming up next, and you'll see that in just a few moments. Not quite this part, we're almost there. Once we get past this staircase. These guys appeared in Castlevania 3. You recognize those guys, Brandon.
Yeah.
They were started off in the pirate ship level. Did you play the pirate ship level when we played that last time? I remember you were playing it for a little bit a few weeks back. And I think I hijacked your controller after a while because you kept dying or something.
For Dracula's Curse?
Yeah, we were playing it out in the living room on the Wii U.
I might have actually went to bed before. I do recall seeing them in Symphony of the Night though in the library.
Oh yeah, they're a pretty frequent enemy in that game.
Oh yeah. See, this is like this boss is a pain in the ass in this game, but it's like a piece of cake in Symphony of the Night, right?
Yeah, this is where the boss pretty much appeared. This is Slagra, I think, is what they called him. And the trick to this guy is he can't be hurt when he's like flashing green like that. But what happens is he always goes to wherever you are in the screen. So you hit him once, walk over, hit him again. And the trick is to duck, because when he throws his spear out, sometimes he'll land and his spear will just be poking out. And if you're standing, you're gonna get hit by it. So, but what's really cool about it is you can actually duck underneath it. And this is where you actually kind of have to wait for him to go back to normal. This guy used to kill me all the time back in the day. This was one of the toughest bosses for us as kids. Now remember, like, you know, I really don't think this game's that hard these days, but back when we were kids, you know, we were still relatively young. We hadn't been playing video games for 25 years of our lives, you know?
That's cool right there.
Yeah, he's like splits apart. These bosses were really, really tough for us, except for this next one. This gargoyle guy has always been easy. But this, the Slagra and Death in particular were always really, really hard bosses for us in this game. I love how smooth the visuals look on this part, like the clouds. Reminds me of like Prince of Persia on the Super Nintendo, where like a lot of the graphics were just really smooth, you know. Although this is smoother than that in most cases. Which again just goes to show how, you know.
I like a lot how like when you hit an enemy, or like every time you strike, he'll blink, and like million colors will pop out.
Yeah, I like that too.
Actually, you know, in certain games, in in the year '91 had had that multicolor blinking.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that really came from I think that really came from like the arcades, because arcades typically did that. In arcades, you never really had life meters on enemies, but the enemies would flash. And in a lot of games, especially like the beat 'em ups, the faster the enemy was flashing and blinking, and the more violently they were flashing and blinking, the closer they were to dying, which was kind of cool.
Like death is like far by the coolest
boss
in any Castlevania game.
Yeah, this is probably one of the coolest battles with death, because you look at him, he's like glowing, and he's fast. You know, you have to be kind of quick to react here. It can be a tricky battle, you know, if you're just not playing well.
He's got a cool scythe that spins around.
Exactly. This is actually the first Castlevania game where they made death do that. And ever since this game, death battles, he's always done something like that, where he does it in Bloodlines, where he gets on the ground, throws his sickle out, and you have to like jump over it, and it does the whole thing, which is really cool. Here's another great attention to detail. The candles come on as you go down the path. God, everything was so like well made in this game. It's gonna be a secret here. Really sort of famous secret, actually. A lot of people are just
Actually, if you look at this real quick, is the castle upside down? Remember how in
No, it's not.
I don't know, kind of if you kind of rotate it back the opposite direction, it kind of sticks up. You got, like,
it kind of like could, yeah. Very reminiscent of like or technically that could be reminiscent of this, the upside down castle in Symphony of the Night, you know.
Yeah.
So
that's actually pretty neat. And then like right there, it's just kind of, it's almost like backwards.
Shh.
See, now's the proper time to be doing that.
Soaking up the night breeze. Shh. Is it springtime? You know, ever since Symphony of the Night, I always want to hit this block in every Castlevania game to make the staircase come down and go up to that first room and get some power-ups. Jump roping.
It is really cool about the Castlevania games that they kind of made Dracula's boss like a lair, like sanction, you know. It's like when it's like when you see those the staircase going up, like you'll know like exactly what boss that you will be fighting, you know.
Yep. All right, it's gonna give me some meat. This Dracula form is probably one of the easiest in the game, easiest in the series. But you do have to be careful. Once he starts throwing these fire things out, you have to whip them, but they will fall and still hurt you, like so. And the fire will hurt you too, so you do have to still be careful. So be careful. Ow! I'm not being careful. Damn, cheap Jack Daniels. Not even real whiskey stuff. It is Jack Daniels, right?
Yeah, Jack Daniels.
Liquor. I don't even know Jack Daniels made like liqueur, and not just like straight liquor.
Yamazaki's pretty nice.
Yamazaki, I think, is better for mixing, you know. The only problem I have with Dracula's final form is that he does this, but they don't refill his life bar. So you kill him in like 2 seconds, and he's really simple. Like, the epic music comes on, and, you know, everything's flashing in the background, but then he dies almost, like, right away.
Well, have you thought about this, though? It's like, once you beat this game, like, a harder difficulty setting comes up, right?
It doesn't refill his life. Yeah, I've already tested that. And unfortunately, after you beat it on the harder mode, which isn't really that much harder, it's, the third loop isn't any more difficult. It's the same amount of enemies, I'm pretty sure, so... Wow, that took us almost an hour and a half to get through. That game's longer than I remember it being. But I was explaining things. I died a couple times. We took a shot. We took a shot. We paused the game. So realistically, this game probably could have taken an hour and 15 minutes. and it's taken us about 10 minutes longer than it should have. But here's the ending to the game. Look at that detail. I mean, all like the vines like immediately crawling up like the gate as the gate comes up. When I saw this game as a kid, I was just absolutely floored, because it was really, it was like nothing I had really quite seen before, you know, and just in the level of detail, it was really a huge jump from what I was used to. And basically what I was used to was the Nintendo Entertainment System. That was my first real video game system. I mean, we had a VCS before my parents sold it once we got the NES, but I was used to the NES. I didn't have a Sega Genesis, you know. I had the Nintendo Entertainment System, and that was video gaming to me. And so when I saw the Super Nintendo, and Super Castlevania 4 in particular, I was just blown away. Everything was so much bigger. It's kind of sad that we don't get those jumps in technology, or at least in gaming technology, that often anymore. It just, ever since the first Xbox, it's just been, everything's kind of plateaued for me. Maybe I'm just getting older, but when we were younger, there were genuine, like, you know, graphical difference between generations. Like, you put this and you put it next to like the first or third Castlevania game, it's like night and day.
Same with like Final Fantasy 1 to Final Fantasy 4.
Oh yeah.
It's like I remember looking in the Nintendo Power strategy guide, or like the Nintendo Power, or not really strategy guides, just
Nintendo Power, the magazine. Yeah.
Because the strategy guides actually meant for the game itself. But even since looking at screenshots, it was just really
you could tell there. Yeah, you could tell there's a huge improvement. You know,
from like the spells to whatever. Even the jump from Final Fantasy 3 to Final Fantasy, or even you know, the Tennessee got me.
The Tennessee got you.
Tennessee got me.
But I guess where I was going with that is that, you know, yeah,
the Tennessee got me.
I could go back and probably attribute some of my appreciation for this game and that generation of gaming just from nostalgia. But when I go back and look at it now, and you look at the differences between generations, you really see there was a big jump between generations. But now, as we're recording this, the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One are coming out next month. And seeing what I've seen with them, they don't look like that huge improvement over what we had with the last generation with the 360. And the 360 wasn't a huge improvement over what we had prior to that with the original Xbox. I mean, it was a jump over the PS2, but I was an avid Xbox supporter from day one, so it's like I had that extra raw power, you know, and you saw that in the original Xbox's games. And the GameCube was a really solid, powerful system as well, much more so than the PS2. And, you know, things really haven't changed that much since that era. And but back in these days, you went from Castlevania to Castlevania 4, and you were just like, jaw hits the floor, and you're having a hard time finding it to pick it back up because it went through the floor and went somewhere else. And
actually, even the jump from Castlevania 4 to like Symphony of the Night.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know,
that was a huge jump too. Absolutely.
Jump, you know?
What's actually kind of funny about Symphony of the Night, though, is that like the characters are actually a little bit smaller in certain cases. The characters are huge in this game. But then again, you had much bigger regular enemies in that game too. So
actually, it seemed like everything in this game was just bigger.
Yeah.
Versus in Symphony of the Night, everything was kind of squashed down just a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. And that could also be due to like resolution differences. Like the PlayStation had a higher resolution, so you know, everything looked smoother in that go. You couldn't pick out the pixels as easily. Whereas I can see like the 2 pixels that make up Simon's arm right there, you know, or like the 4 pixel that makes up his fist. Whereas in Symphony of the Night, you know, you had a slightly higher resolution in that game, and so everything was more detailed. Yeah,
it's such a great game.
It is. I want to say thanks for doing this with me, Brandon. I wasn't expecting. I just came home from work today, guys, and I was like, all right, Brandon, you wanna take a shot with me? I'm gonna do my last Castlevania video. He's like, oh, hey, can I get in on it with you? And I was like, oh, sure, hell yeah. So, you know, it was a nice surprise for this Let's Play Castlevania series finale, so to say. And, so, if we go ahead and just hit start from here, it's going to just pretty much reset the game. And this is where I kind of wish that I recorded this through the Wii, because I could just hit the home key, exit out, and it would pretty much just save my progress. However, right now I'm recording on the actual Super Nintendo, and so it'll pretty much, you know, well, go away. I'll have to... I don't know if you can use a passcode to just restart the hard mode, but as you can see, there's an extra skeleton that wasn't there before, previously. I don't know if there's a password I can use just to get to this first level on the harder mode, or the second loop. But, yeah, if you know the details on that, definitely post a comment below, guys. Let me know. Clarify that for me, please. And, you know, when I play this game, I actually do prefer to play, like, the more difficult mode, because there's more enemies. Like, that guy wasn't there before. You know? Already there's more enemies, but there's not that many more enemies, if you know what I mean. Yeah, definitely more bats, that's for sure. So, another little attention to detail, that sort of like bat symbol in the back, it's like blinking. I always noticed that as a kid. That was really cool for me. It's like blinking blue and red.
It goes good with the Halloween theme.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the Castlevania series, as you guys know, it's a series that I love to play, especially during the Halloween season. And Castlevania 4 is usually one of those I go to first, and there's so many aspects of this game go really well for that sort of time period of the year. So, looks like they're doing more damage now too, which is good. So you do have to play a little bit safer, but you know, again, it's still not that tricky overall. Ooh. Yeah. No, I'm not even playing real, to be honest with you. I'm trying to like dodge the enemies and things like that. Oh, I just got some meat. Never noticed that before, because I never usually got hit up to that point. Let's see if I can fall down like that. I like doing that.
Oh my car.
Oh my car. Oh, what a way to end this Let's Play.
What a way to end this Let's Play.
Just crawl under these guys. Oh, stupid bat.
Are you hitting him?
Yep. Totally was. What would be actually kind of fun to do in this game, and I don't think I've ever done it before, is just, let me actually die real quick, is go through the entire game with just your leather whip. And because everything takes a lot more hits with just your leather whip. No, not that many more, just one more, apparently.
Is that like a challenge in Nintendo Power? Beat the game with a regular whip?
Yeah, it's not that less powerful, to be honest with you. I'm still killing these guys in 2 hits. If this was a different Castlevania game, it would definitely be more difficult. But it's not really that more difficult. It just doesn't go as far. It doesn't really even really matter that much, because it still goes kind of far. And you can still attack really fast with it. Oh, it gives you meat if you don't have a weapon. That's good to know.
You probably get more meat if you use the regular whip.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Huh. So that's probably why in his screenshots.
Whoa, hey doggy.
That's probably why in his screenshots why you saw.
So right here you can see more enemies as well. Just like so. So that's actually pretty fun. That's kind of cool. Just I've actually never done that before. Just try to go through the game with just your leather whip. I definitely have to play it slightly differently now. You know, like don't hit the candles because, you know, I don't want to accidentally pick up one of my whip power-ups. Because again, you get those through the candles. And if it's like Castlevania 1 or 3, you might also get it occasionally just from destroying certain enemies. I don't think that really happens in this game, though. Stopwatch! That was funny. I was actually pressing up in attack to use it. But you don't... Oh, you don't do that in this game. You just press the R button to use your items. Getting so disoriented because I've been doing so many Castlevania Let's Plays this whole month.
They had to censor out like 8 crosses.
Yep.
Must have been a whole lot of work.
For a whole lot of nothing.
Might as well made the horses headless, you know.
Yeah, it's like, what the hell? You've got, like, you know, horses made of bone, which means they've probably been skinned alive or something like that, yet you take out the crosses. It's weird.
Hit him right in his crotch. Yeah, look at me!
Alright guys, well, I'm gonna go ahead and just wrap it up here. Once again, I want to say thanks for watching this Castlevania Let's Play Marathon for all of October 2013. Again, it was a lot of work. I spent a lot of time doing this month. I really hope you guys enjoyed this. And, you know, as you saw here, Super Castlevania 4, my personal favorite Castlevania game in the whole series. And still to this day, one of my favorite games of all time. It's just one of the best games out there for me. I just always have fun playing this game. Pretty much no matter how many times I played it, I still have a blast with it. And Brandon, you know, you too. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for doing this. It's been a long time since we've done a video together, and you know, which is actually kind of pathetic because you live in the same place as me now. So it's like there's no excuse, but you know, it's all good. So I'm glad you were able to come on and do this and sort of wrap up this marathon with me. Sort of go out in style, so to say.
Yeah. So
everybody else, I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing as far as Let's Plays from here on out. I haven't really looked that far ahead. You know, again, I've just been focusing on doing these Castlevania Let's Plays for this last month, and this last week especially, I've been trying to really get them out, because I wanted to cover this, I wanted to cover Dracula X on the Turbo Duo, I wanted to cover Castlevania Adventure Rebirth on the Wii. So the last several days especially, I've just been kind of going non-stop at this, in between work and some other things. I actually wanted to also do Haunted Castle, which was the arcade Castlevania game. And I tried not recording, but I tried starting to practice that Sunday night. And I just wasn't really feeling it, and I was having a really hard time at it. Because you get limited continues in that game, and it's an extremely difficult game. I was using MAME, but I wasn't using save state. So every time I got a game over, I had to play the first level all over again. And I just wasn't feeling it. So, whereas I wanted to be able to fit that in as well, it just was not to be, apparently. Maybe if I do another Castlevania Marathon next year, I will try to include that game. And I'd also like to actually visit the MSX Vampire Killer as well, which is one of also the very original Castlevania games. And it's a very unique take on the formula. It's like a hybrid between like Castlevania 1 and just non-linear elements of some later Castlevania games. It's very cool. So maybe I can do that in the future as well. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this marathon. Look at all this slowdown because of all the extra enemies now. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed this marathon. Thanks for watching. To those of you guys new to my channel, if you've tuned into some of these Castlevania videos, you know, feel free to subscribe. You know, I've probably got more Let's Plays on the way sometime soon. And I do have a couple ideas up my sleeve, but, you know, I'm not sure what my output's going to be. Might take a slight break since I've been pumping out these Castlevania videos left and right, but we'll see. But anyways, guys, again, I'm Austin, and here proudly recording with my brother Brandon Mackert. I guess we're gonna go ahead and just cut it off here. Good night. Thanks for watching, and any last words of wisdom, Brandon?
Oh my car.
Oh my car. I should do a Final Fight Let's Play now that I think about it.
Yes.
Even though I don't know. I love Final Fight, especially the Sega CD one, but I've never been good enough to be able to beat it without continuing. It always takes me a few continues to beat it. And when I do these Let's Plays, I don't like to continue if I can avoid it, so... But yeah, we'll see. Maybe sometime down the road.
Supposed to get to that particular scene in the game and just to hear him.
I should do like a compilation video of just like funny like quotes in video games. Oh my car. No, I'm just kidding. Alright guys, I'm gonna officially wrap it up here. So until next time guys, take care.